Of our co-work sessions, I always want to make sure that we have someone trying to share value that we could perhaps all learn from. Again, in no way am I the master of marketing, but I do run an agency that we help projects scale mindshare, scale user base, scale community, grow in this space. Of course, we've been around since 2021. Actually, we are a sister company of Arcadia. I run Pandora, which is the sister company, and Arcadia has been around helping companies like Sentient, Tria, Polygon, Pump Fund, Hedera, Sonic Labs, all of the big names you can perhaps see in the top 100 market cap companies today. So what we do is we basically provide a similar playbook, but essentially for earlier stage companies to have that sort of similar success of GTM. That could be meaning you're launching a token or perhaps launched a token but want to scale mindshare, scale growth, or perhaps just be able to scale footprint in certain geography or demographics and communities, right? So today, guys, I would perhaps just kind of share a few of our insights of what we've seen as one, common mistakes, but also understanding what the current trend of marketing looks like in 2026, all right? So maybe a bit of some show of hands. Love to kind of have you guys keeping this a bit more interactive. And maybe a question for you guys. What do you think would be top 2 success factors for a project to succeed in 2026? Anything, guys, top of your mind? Sorry? Polymarket. So I mean, what would be the two criterias, or rather, like, what would be the 2 factors that you think is important for a founder to leverage or do in 2026 to succeed in marketing?
I'd say mindshare and distribution.
Mindshare distribution. Anyone else?
I would say showing growth in metrics and revenues.
More transparent in showing growth and metrics and revenue.
Yes,
Build in public.
Building products that people actually use.
Build in products that people actually use. Anyone else?
Community building.
Community building. Fantastic. I think all those are some great answers, and I guess it's a mixture of all of that as part of the recipe to make sure that we can succeed. Now, of course, there's many different elements, guys, in making sure that one can succeed in pushing their product out there. Of course, many different stages of growth as well. But today I want to just kind of emphasize on one of the most key important element, right? And I will do a lot of that emphasis on founder funnel, all right? So stop me wherever you guys have any questions. Make sure you make this, I want to keep this interactive. So guys, why most of the Web3 marketing fail, right? Buying KOL tweets, running giveaways, chasing vanity metrics, depending on paid attention. Results, we get temporary pumps, no trust, and naturally poor retention, right? We've all seen this, guys. Like, everyone here, if especially you are a founder for the first time, realize that, hey, I need to have 10K minimum followers on Twitter to make it, right? Or rather, no one's gonna give a shit about my project if I don't have 10 or 20 or 30K. So what do? The first thing they do, buy a blue tick mark, run these low quality giveaways through Galaxy or whatever platform that you can find these guys, attract all those farmers, have these 10K followers with mass manufactured botted accounts where you can tell that you have all these AI slops, but also like these low quality engagement, and say, hey guys, we've got 40K followers, 20K users, and we're growing. Naturally, what happens in this case, guys, is that people often get fooled, and it feeds their ego to the point that you start forgetting that fake it till you make it only works up to one extent, right? And you're absolutely right to kind of play at the same battlefield, because then now, you know what? A lot of founders will say, hey, Sahib, don't hate the player, but hate the game. I hear you, and I think you're right? Because everyone in Twitter is chasing those vanity metrics. Everyone on X thinks that it's not normal to not have that, 100 likes, 20 retweets, 50 comments on your page. But guys, remember that you can fool yourself to an extent, but what you will never get is that retention of real users that actually follow you for what you build. Like Brian Chesky said, if you can build a product where you can get your first 100 loyal fans, you're onto something, right? So it's the same thing, it's the same logic here, guys. Today, as I said before, the biggest distribution channel is actually the founder himself, right? People follow people. People follow stories. People follow conviction. People want to follow transparency, like you said, and not just logos. Founder visibility actually compounds faster than paid marketing, right? Because today what happens is that you go out there, and I'm saying this as a marketing agency, I actually get paid to run KOL campaigns. And you may say I'm putting a nail in my foot today, but the truth is that even KOL marketing has changed drastically, and I'll get to that in a bit. But today the biggest hack is actually putting yourself in front of your audience. Because in 2026, if you are a founder that doesn't have an online presence, you're completely invisible. Now, one can argue, hey, I don't want to build in public because I don't want to give away my secret sauce. One could also argue, hey, I'm not an extrovert and I'm not out there to be able to keep tweeting, keep getting on podcasts or just creating content because I have shit to do. I want to build stuff. But truth is, guys, this is your biggest hack. With AI being the leverage on having built products so fast, so quick, your true moat today is your personal brand, your profile, and your distribution that you create. And distribution through personal brand is actually one of the biggest hacks. Why? Because in reality, what happens is that you see that J curve compound at some point. Yes, your X is not going to grow exponentially. Yes, your Instagram profile is not going to grow exponentially unless you're on OnlyFans. But truth is, you will see that compounding effect happen eventually, right? Which brings me to my next point. Founder. The founder builds a brand, and a brand then cultivates a community. That community then eventually leads you to become a cult leader, right? In today's time, you want to be able to become a cult leader, right? Because again, people often mistake the word community for people showing up in a room, for people showing up on spaces, for people showing up for an event, right? But the truth here, guys, is that community is one that not just vibe with you, not just engage with you, but they're one that will follow you anywhere you go, whatever you do. And that's why when I said, going back to this thing, people follow people. People follow stories. People actually follow you for your belief. People actually follow you for who you are. People actually follow you for your conviction. People actually follow you for who you follow, right? And everyone here, guys, like every one of us wants to be like someone. Tell me if you don't scroll on social media and have your favorite football player or your favorite celeb on your favorite profile on your favorites, and you're actually like, hey, holy shit, I want to be like him. Why? Why do you want to be like him? It's because there's a social status. He's successful. He has some sort of accreditation, and that hunger, that ambitious, brings that following to eventually turn into a cult, right? Now, when you eventually have a community, what does that bring? That actually brings you trust, right? You slowly build trust, which then converts to attention and then eventually adoption, right? I mean, you can be very eccentric and that's your personality. Elon Musk has a cult. He's a cult leader. Gary Vee is a cult leader. They can come out and they say one thing, they can say full stop, or they can say a statement that becomes a thing, a trend. Not every one of us is going to become Elon Musk. You don't have to. You don't have to aspire to be him. But the truth is, be yourself, right? Now, 4 stages of growth, and I say Web3, but again, growth in any business is obviously the awareness, the education, the conversion, and the retention. Most of the Web3 products actually fail on the last one. And most of the founders today actually fail on education. So what people do with paid marketing is actually do a great job at awareness. Spend $100,000, multiple 7 figs, eventually get people to get aware of your product, sponsor those big events, have your logo slapped on different stadiums, nightclubs, and essentially you are aware because everyone thinks, everyone knows, everyone sees you. But that see or that awareness is not education, conversion, and retention, right? So when you actually start pushing more education out there is when people start understanding why you're building what you're building. And that's when you want to, you've always heard of this, guys. If you cannot explain your product in 10 seconds, you've lost, right? Drew, 10 seconds, what do you do?
Next.
Jose, 10 seconds, what do you do?
I'm learning Solana, so it's not like I have a real project. Only the one that I present from the hackathon, but it's more like an educational tool.
Anyone wants to present? 10 seconds. Tim, what do you do?
Teach kids artificial intelligence and coding.
There you go. Teach kids artificial intelligence coding, right? Mika, 10 seconds. What do you do?
I'm a motion graphics designer, and right now what I'm doing is I'm building a social media app.
For movies, yeah.
Right? Thing is that, guys, if you cannot capture your audience's attention in 10 seconds, you have lost them. Because ask yourself, how often are you on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and just doom scrolling? 10 seconds, unless you find a chick with tits that you stop and be like, who's that, right? Or you see a sexy car that you're like, holy shit, I want that, right? You don't stop. Education is by far the most underlooked factor because the founders that actually come out there and build a brand are not telling you, come and buy my product. It's what you get by using my product, right? What do kids then become after they learn artificial intelligence coding? What is the opportunity that they can get once they've eventually learned artificial intelligence coding? We all understand that people are moving into AI, and hence you want to educate your kids now to adapt and adopt for the future. That's why you want to use Tim's platform, right? Mo.
Yeah, a good question here, right? So if anybody's been to Token 2049 ever, or to Dubai, there's a very well-known brand that spends 7 figures every year on activations. Blowfin. Does anybody know what they do? So their token spent last year was 1.9 million, right? That's what they spend on average every token, 1.9 million. I've asked this question to more than 100 people. What does Blowfin do? No one has been able to answer. Even people who've attended their events and spent 5 figures on tables don't know what Blowfin does. So you could have the money, Sahab is right, but people would not know what you do.
Yeah. Sometimes people often mistake a successful event, maybe a million, let's say 300,000 people that attended Token, or you were in Singapore for F1, came to the after party and saw their logo. But question is like, how many of those people actually onboarded into the exchange? Let's even forget, whether they know that that's an exchange, right? And that's a good point, because I think today we literally, and the reason why I've chosen Founder Funnel as one of the biggest hacks, and apart from a lot of other things that one can exercise and leverage, is because I believe it's not the fastest way, but it's the most efficient and long-term game that you can perhaps do if you're around Web3 and you're trying to play the long-term game, right? All right, so content that actually works, guys, like founder content, brand content, community content, right? Now, notable communities, and of course, I bring these, like, I'm just going back to the NFT days, right? And of course, like Solana, we're all Solana here. I understand that we would know the D-Gods, the Monkey DAOs, and the backpacks. Just bringing all this because it's universal, and the truth is, like, what the NFT communities did back then was they got to the retail very well, right? And of course, there's only a few that really got or stuck around today, right? There's only like maybe Pudgies, the Basees, and maybe the Retardios or whatever, right? That actually still people know. The truth is that what people did, what these project founders did well was engrave that cultish feeling in them, right? Over time, it was about that events, that ownership, that feeling of being able to be part of that cult, right? Now, naturally, from a founder content, your brand content, your community content is very important, right? I'm going one step into brand content and community content. Why? Because you are not alone. Yes, you start off alone, but with funding, with the right means, hopefully you start attracting good capital, attracting a good team that makes you help spread the awareness, the education, the conversion, and the retention, right? So the three pillars eventually needs to play out, guys. Like, I'm not saying you need to market and you need to be the center of attraction and it's your sole job to do that only, because, hey, I have a company to build. I have to go out network. I have to go out attract capital. I need to go out, do solid partnerships out there. So brand content, community content. I want to bring this topic up here because this particular, I'd say, factor is one that really confuses a lot of different founders, right? So I had a founder that I had on my podcast the other day, and he says, "Hey, Sahib, I've actually been struggling to get my community to believe in us, despite the fact that I'm going out there and building nonstop." And I said, "Hey, I've actually just, I'm not surprised. And I've actually just looked at your X profile. So what's your biggest, as in like, what's the most frequent medium of communication with your community, right? Between all of us here, it's usually X, usually Discord or Telegram, maybe LinkedIn, if that's your audience, right? But between the three of what I just mentioned, top two, X or Telegram, Discord. The guy hasn't tweeted in 4 months. I kid you not, 4 months. And I said, "Hey, what went wrong?" He's like, "The problem is I was over communicating after my TGE and that got us into a lot of trouble." I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "I was communicating too much and I was perhaps experimenting. I was actually throwing out things that we were doing. Turns out the community took it as promises that we needed to deliver those within those X period of time, which affected the token as well. So my team asked me to stop or reduce, and hence I just forgot to respond or reply." So 2 things to this, guys. Number 1, before TGE or launching a token, you are super active on X. You promise them the world. When I say promise, means like you're telling them what you're going to build. You're showing them everything that they need to believe in you, why they need to invest in your pre-sale, why they need to stick around for your airdrop, or even, let's say, launch a token with you or be part of that journey. You've captured this audience through what? Through X, which is your main channel. Post-launch, you don't communicate. What are they supposed to relate? Who are they supposed to look up to, right? Because at the end of the day, they're looking up to you for your word, your communication, what you mentioned to them here. What's the follow-through, right? But hey, my brand content, my page, we're updating and shipping every second day. Great. But they believed in you first and then your brand. That's number one. Number two, guys, as a founder, you can be open to testing and trying. What people and founders often do is mistake that experiment phase to over promise and twist certain words. We just closed a deal with Tesla. I'm here at the NVIDIA Taipei and we're signing a deal. We are here and attending an NVIDIA event to explore different partnerships and explore different opportunities is very different to saying we are here to sign a deal with NVIDIA. You see? See the difference? Like Web3 founders and the ones that actually play a short-term game often like to twist words so that that can lead to token pumps. But what goes up that fast will come down this quick, right? So choose your words wisely, guys. And this is where I come back to the brand content side of things. There is a perfect balance of how you can showcase a dominant voice of authority and leadership and actually being able to communicate what you're thinking, what you're exploring, versus the brand page balancing that what you guys are actually shipping out there every week, right? Because what they want to see with the founder's profile is what's happening behind the scenes. Show us those stuff that you're doing behind closed doors. I mean, don't go show like who you're meeting, but like at least like, hey, I'm here today exploring this with that person. Hey, we're exploring the partnership of blah, blah, blah. You don't have to be over communicative by over promising, but you can show snippets of what's happening, all right? Distribution content. So for sure, distribution now, where does that distribution come from, right? And how does that founder account to community, strategic KOLs, partnerships, media, events? Here's where I want to we spend a lot of time on founder account community. I want to talk about strategic KOLs, partnerships, media, events, right? KOL, a game of KOL today is changing drastically, right? People that were around in 2018, 2021, past year or even 2 years have lost the voice, that influence of pumping tokens, right? Those 100K, 200, 300K follower accounts, bad news for you guys, they're probably being bought out, right? And you don't know. The truth is, and I say this with confidence because I've brokered some of those deals. I'm not going to name who, but a few of those projects are KOLs that you've been following for a very long time, they're not around at sitting behind their tweets anymore, right? But truth here, guys, is that as much as you still follow them, and you should, but of course, due diligence always matters, there's a new trend or new era of KOLs that I would like to highlight today, which is very interesting. They are these small content creators / traders that have their own X or Telegram or Discord communities. They're not your average 10K, 30K, 100K follower guys anymore. They're your 5K, 3,000 followers that actually get into the trenches, actually spend their time researching and actually share publicly, or rather in their paid community or subs on X, their thought process, their journal, their trades. Those are the guys that you want to work with. Those guys today have influence in a very meaningful way. Why? Because they're actually bringing the next gen of traders on board. So thanks to apps like FOMO, GMGN has like this leaderboard of thesis, right? So if you're in the trenches and you go to FOMO, you can actually see publicly your favorite account trading and also putting thesis of why they've invested into what they've invested. That's perfect. Why? Because now you're socially following someone that may have once been a LARPer, or you thought he was a LARPer, but he's actually a fucking good trader, or vice versa. Thought he was a great trader, but he's horrible actually at trading because he used to LARP by posting fake screenshots, right? But now what this allows you to do is follow these accounts, and sometimes you see these underdogs that actually outperform the bigger accounts. These guys have a Telegram account that they journal. These guys have an X sub account that they share. Guys, these are your people that you want to speak to. right? I mean, of course, there's many other different pockets, but this is who they speak to. Now, the other thing I also do want to say is that with media and events, I'll just touch on media, is that the one thing that we've seen based on data as well, guys, is that a lot of people get very obsessed with X. Truth be told, X is a circle jerk. You want to start exploring distribution outside of X. And there's many ways of doing that, right? Reddit's a great example, by the way, right? Reddit, some people will laugh. CoinMarketCap,
CoinMarketCap is something that's untapped, right?
yes.
So if you go back Mocha and Open Campus,
Yeah.
Mocha runs crazy amount of campaigns specifically on CoinMarketCap, right? They have a whole crew of distribution on content, visuals, narratives that goes on CoinMarketCap. And this is why they've been outperforming. Animoca has a very good strategy there. All their portfolio tokens do very well on CoinMarketCap. The second one, sorry to interrupt you, Simon,
Please go for it.
is HackerNoon. A lot of people don't know this, but Toli is a big fan of it. He actually hires from HackerNoon, right? Like he doesn't look for people on X. He goes and looks at profiles on HackerNoon, who's writing, who's documenting. So HackerNoon is a free account, but I promise you, if you're there, I've been there for 5 years, and the amount of business I've got and partnerships that I've got, 90% of the people in this room don't have a HackerNoon account or don't go there. But the big decision makers, they go to HackerNoon because the same thing. X is a circle jerk and it's a noise cylinder. You know, so that's two I would say, like tap into it, right? CoinMarketCap, go to all ownership coins, maybe for example for you, right? And each of them has a profile. Share that report or snippet on that. You will generate so many leads right there and attention. It's wild and it's for free.
Another one, guys, is Binance Square. Binance Square is investing heavily. Again, CoinMarketCap is owned by Binance, right? But you know what they will always do is always cannibalize their own business to grow their own business.
7-Eleven.
Yes. So, Miu, just to confirm that it's recording, right?
Yeah.
One is hire Pandora. I'm joking. One is actually, guys, if you actually, within your community, search for the most passionate people that are publicly or rather happily advocating for your project, uplift them, incentivize them, because these are your ambassadors, natural ambassadors, right? And what you want to do is be able to have them the opportunity to being your intern, being your content writer, being your reply guy, being your creative director, whatever that looks like, being your the head of CoinMarketCap, your Binance Square, whatever, guys. This is perhaps your best way of hacking and incentivizing your own community by giving them the opportunity to step up, because they already have a skin in the game. They already have an upside. If you won, they won, right? That's obviously one. Number two, obviously you can work with new hires, work with agencies that can help create the distribution. But of course, guys, like also be true to yourself, right? Like you don't want to outsource your entire voice, because that also isn't like what you want to eventually do, right? Like have a system. There's a lot of different structures, like tools like Typefully, for instance. I use that, right? I post my I post a content that will go on X, LinkedIn, Threads right away, right? Then I have obviously my team that posts all my video clips on Instagram, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, right? Don't be fooled, guys. All these active founders, they're not a one-man army. Maybe, and yes, AI, OpenAI, Claude, whatever, these agents that you want to use will help you and can help you. Leverage those. If you can figure out a structure that can help you clip, post, and do that like this, or seamlessly or at a scale, leverage those, guys, right? There's a lot of different apps and tools that you can do that with. But the truth here is, don't be fooled that these guys are sitting behind the computer and just tweeting and don't have a life, all right? Number two, in the pursuit of doing all of this, guys, don't let it get to your ego. Vanity metrics doesn't mean a shit if you can't convert real customers or have real community members that actually love or are a big fan of what you guys are doing, right? So obviously, like, you know, media events, like, you really don't need to get to that stage unless you're at a particular level of, let's say, funding resources that you want to do, you know, more sponsorship or whatever. Even in events, guys, like, you could do a lot more meaningful, smaller events where you leverage and piggyback on, you know, bigger conferences like the blockchain weeks or like the tokens or whatever, right? And go out there and do like a small curated, meaningful event with your community, right? Because at the end of the day, guys, back to what I said, right? Community members always want to be felt that, hey, I can see the founder, I can speak to the founder, I can, you know, give my feedback to the founder. And nothing better than being out there and showing those people that you actually care, you give a shit, and you're showing up, right? Yep, I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, really, you know, TLDR, build founder brands, educate before selling, invest in distribution, and measure business outcomes, right? Kind of pretty much almost really what everyone said at the beginning of the session, right? Transparent data points, being able to invest in distribution, build publicly, right? At the end of the day, guys, like, you know, marketing, as I always say to our clients, is there's no one playbook that fits all. And that's also because of the nature of your product, nature of your geography, your demographic, nature of the stage of your company. But at the end of the day, like, you want to fuck around and find out as much as possible, as fast as possible, so that whatever you get from those results, you can double down. That's it, guys. Thank you so much.
It was really great. Thanks for sharing. I definitely learned a lot. When you were breaking down the difference between founder marketing and then brand marketing and community marketing, do you have any general guidance for like the type of content founders should be producing versus the type of content that should be coming from a brand account, community account? Like, I know you mentioned, like, talk about what you're doing behind the scenes, but is there anything else that's very founder specific that you can always go back to talking about?
Yeah. So one thing is, like, again, just doubling down on the founder profile first. On the founder's profile, you want to be as authentic as possible, right? Sometimes you can be a retard, and that's fine. And I say that because community members can know how eccentric or how, you know, vulnerable you can be to certain things, and that's perfectly fine. Those are the type of content that your brand should never talk about, right? Because at the end of the day, what the brand profile talks about is strictly your updates of what's happening in the business world, the updates on the dev side, the tech, what are the new partnerships, the community. Basically, your formal board of communication, right? Where you often don't want to be unprofessional by memeing or like by throwing, you know, rage bait content, right? Or by doing shit posting, for instance. A lot of founders start mistaking that for in the pursuit and chase of metrics and say that, hey, maybe that gets us more engagement and hence people will see my profile more, as like our team profile more. Personally, I think that's a bad idea. You really don't want to compromise the quality of the standard of your project by doing all of that. And of course, as a founder, you disagree with the view that someone has given and you perhaps want to say something, you want to quote retweet and say otherwise, you want to comment and say otherwise, go for it, right? I think that's authentic enough to say, hey, that's who I am and this is who I disbelieve or I don't agree with this take and I will give my opinion, right? Of course, like, you don't want to be the guy that's just giving the most negative and, you know, just like shooting people down because, like, bro, you have a life to build a product and you shouldn't be on X searching and hunting and sniping the next comment down. But to answer your question, stuff that you do behind the scenes, like, hey, you know, I'm a gym fanatic. I actually like surfing. I like to travel, right? I like photography or, you know, books that I do. Or I like drinking wine, for instance. and I'm mixing that with my business or with people that I hang out with or I'm building with, all of that will never go on the brand content side. But everything that you guys do on the formal side of things should be on the brand side.
One of the few channels which I've dabbled a bit but find it hard to keep up with is shorts, like short form content. I find there's like massive audiences. My question is, how would you bridge like our core channels like X, Telegram, Discord, where crypto lives, to the more general public Gen Z audiences that love these video and have shorter attention spans?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So one thing I perhaps didn't mention as much, and perhaps that's also like one of the things that I do, and the reason I do that is because, so podcasting is obviously one way of breaking down that content into clips, right? So obviously clipping is a trend that I think will not die completely any soon because of two things. One is really breaking it down into stupid, simple, straightforward stuff that, two, a third person is talking about, right? So in my opinion, to answer your question, the more UGC or the more organic pool of content creators you can bring that can sort of represent your brand in their own tone of voice, in their own channels, in the shortest form possible with creative output is perhaps the best way, right? Now, obviously that will relate between a more technical product that may not have like social angle versus, let's say, a very sociable app that can then be broken down into a social scenario, right? So I think for that, there's a lot of like these, these product demo videos that AI can just help generate, and having post that with like, let's say a very reputable, I don't say reputable, but someone that has like a good reputation on different audience in different channels is a fantastic way, right? Because then you're getting like someone who has maybe a following on Instagram or TikTok, and he has a very retail focused audience, talk about a certain product. Like I think one of the best ways of leveraging AI today and growing your audience on social media, especially Instagram and TikTok, is become a Claude expert. I did this, Claude helps me made $10,000 last month. I've helped, my Claude agent did this for me. And those thumbnails and those rage bait thumbnails, or like rather content, gets a lot of engagement. Because the truth is like everyone that doesn't use ChatGPT or like these LLMs, like 99.2% of the people that have not like kind of have only scratched the surface of LLM, they all want to know like, what else can I do to leverage AI in making me rich or make money or have a better quality of life, right? So I think that's perhaps like the way of, but also you need, that's like guys, like one thing that I would say has worked really well for me, and again, that's why like I was just telling the folks behind here is like I realize and have so much more respect for content creators is because we've always thought like it's easy to just slap a camera and speak and just go and post. And yes, sometimes you should do that because you just be super authentic, but try to just document everything you're doing, because that really helps bring out that founder persona. And like these small content can just be broken down. And the best part is like the most unexpected content are usually the ones that goes most viral. So I keep saying this in everything I do is like, shoot your shot, guys. Whatever you do, shoot your shot. Because the day you stop shooting your shot is when you're already lost. Thank you, guys.